11 months have passed since that magnificent exhibition at Grand Boucle of our beloved Danish anchovy, Jonas Vingegaard. And that day, in the space of just 6.5 kilometers, the yellow jersey burst his rival, led by Dracula Gianetti, in a historic exhibition. Something worthy of the height of cycling legends like Disney Landis or the White Kenyan Landis. On the ascent to Dormancy, under the watchful eye of the doped badger who won a legendary World Championships on that same summit in 1980, our herring-scented Dane crushed the mystical Slovenian M&M fan by almost 11 seconds per kilometre, leaving Poggi almost 2 minutes behind and gaining a lead of more than 4 minutes to the 20th classified rider on that stage. Time does not forget, neither do signed contracts. The Danish anchovy is not at all happy that we are still talking about that shameless performance, but he and many other athletes signed a succulent piece of paper for Netflix, that giant of dramas that sells you both woke products and series where men happily beat up women. And they are making their own drama out of professional cycling. I'm sorry to tell you, dear Jonas, that Netflix didn't believe your show on Grand Boucle, and therefore they don't believe in your professional career as a cyclist. The documentary starts by telling us the story from the loser's point of view, that of the alien who, just 10 months later, was able to do the same thing to Daddy Martinez in the Perugia time trial of the Giro d'Italia 2024, and all thanks to that now mythical aerodynamic bra, that undergarment that made him the best guy on a time trial bike in history. But on that day in Grand Boucle, Poggi had followed a different strategy to his rival. He decided he would change bikes before the climb to Dormancy because, according to the Slovenian, if he made the ideal climb, he could ride up to 40 seconds faster over those 6.5 kilometers. And the truth is that he didn't do too badly at all. The Sonia Duval rider bludgeoned the Belgian multi-tool Bot van Aert by more than 1 minute and 13 seconds, a great time trial in just 22 kilometers of riding. The performance of Moonlight Machin's disciple immediately reminded us of that of doped former world champion Gianni Bugno in the 1992 Luxembourg time trial. The Italian, prepared by Francesco Conconi and Michele Ferrari, had trained exceptionally hard during the previous months to improve his time trialling, and that day he made a brilliant race against the clock and was clearly superior to almost all his rivals. But then a Spanish alien, treated by his own doctor, managed to take almost 4 minutes of advantage and destroy Gianni's morale forever. Now, Poggi had given his best at Grand Boucle, but it was not enough. It was, in his own words in the Netflix documentary, heartbreaking. And that's because when he finished, the white Grand Boucle jersey thought he had done an excellent time trial. But when he asked his beloved fiancée Urska how the anchovy was doing, the pretty blonde put the champagne back on ice, the one she'd prepared for a romantic hotel night together, and she told her boyish boyfriend, "You don't want to know." Vingegaard herself appears in the documentary to explain how Poggi was absolutely devastated when he found out the reality. She said they both suffered a lot, and we're not surprised. When all the press is patting you on the back, when fans are tattooing your face on the most noble parts of their body, and when you have the biggest sellout in history as a director telling you all day long that you're the best, and then suddenly an anchovy comes along and slams his huge married sea bream all over your face. It must hurt. It must hurt. But displays like that from Vingegaard, well, they also have their consequences, and the Netflix documentary has no problems highlighting them. There are the guys who believe in clean cycling, that is, the same ones who, in 2005, applauded low-cost Lance, insisting that he was little less than Superman on a bike. And perhaps they were the same ones who, in 2017, screamed for Alberto Contretrol with cheers and applause as if he were a vegan messiah. Or then there are the ones who subscribe to Chris Horner's channel and do it because they really think that at 42 years old, you can win a cycling Grand Tour. No, those same guys are going to suffer a lot with Netflix's documentary. For 6 minutes, perhaps in homage to the 6 kilometers of Domancy, the drama is dedicated to compiling several suspicions of doping for the Danish anchovy, an exhibition of Coilette, the legendary athlete of the planet Rabobank. Many parallels. From podcasts of YouTubers and streamers without any real relevance to the mythical cover of the newspaper L'Équipe the day after that time trial. The French, in purest Charlie Hebdo style, paid homage to the anchovy with a headline, "From Another Planet." A cover exactly identical to the one they used to refer to the doped Texan from US Postal when he won the Tour de France in 1999 with only one egg, and with Frankie Andreu as a gregario in the mountains. At the same time, Netflix, which knows its audience, is the first major media that dares to give voice to testimonies of amateurs who don't believe what they're seeing. And of course, there are those who believe that professional sport is noble and pure, like those naked Athenian athletes who were already doping in the Olympic Games of antiquity. They're going to be lining up to criticize this documentary, because it is not a classic hagiographic tale of a poor Dane who cleaned fish and then suddenly rises to humiliate generational champions simply by having the best materials and perfect nutrition, and that will hurt many. Precisely, Richard Plug, the popular journalist and director of the Rabobank team, he does not deny that the anchovy was doped to the gills in that time trial. He says, "It's easy to say that we're doing things we shouldn't, but I'll stick with the fact that everything went perfectly." Perhaps this is the same as saying, yes, you accuse me of doping, but I'll stick with the fact that I won the Tour, and until you have a sample of piss from the anchovy full of EPO, I'll continue to earn millions, while you criticize me from your living room. Possibly. The documentary will not have pleased a Dutch team that have already opened the doors of its squad to make documentaries from the inside in previous years in Netflix. It won't have pleased them at all. And sports director Grisha Nierman is responsible for expressing his dissatisfaction when questioned about the possible doping of his anchovy. He snapped, "These are not the questions you want to answer after an exhibition like the one Jonas just gave." So what do you want to be asked, Grisha, old boy? If your cyclist celibate nights are the ones that provide more natural testosterone and that's why your rider's flying? Rabobank's stance is rather pitiful, but even worse is that of Vingegaard himself, who dares to appear in the documentary and doesn't go out of his way to shed too much light on the matter. For the anchovy, the only reason to speculate about that display is in the past. Big mistake, friend Jonas. To talk about the past as if doping had been eradicated with the arrival of Dave Brailsford and the retirement of Lance Armstrong 12 years ago is absolutely despicable. To talk about 2007, when your team was going to win the Tour de France with a Dane, there's always a Dane involved, doped up to his bald forehead, and then make out as if it's something that happened 200 years ago, well, that's another serious mistake. And then even more so when hundreds of people from those times are still linked to the world of cycling without any problems, including some within your own team. The increased power of doctors in the teams and the constant smashing of doping records in all events of the calendar and the massive increase of TUEs in top-level athletes, or even in your own country when public funds are invested to discover how EPO can be detected in anti-doping controls. Oh, and there are many, many more reasons to be suspicious, dear anchovy. And then right after that, Jonas dared to utter a sentence that will haunt him all his life. "I'm clean, and if they check my samples in 100 years, they will still find nothing." Words that remind us, eerily so, of those uttered by our great friend Bjarne. He said them over and over and over again in every form of media. And remember, Netflix doesn't delete its documentaries after a year or two. They'll be around for a long time.